Hey there, everybody. How you doing out there today on a lovely May 25th, 2021? This is Doc Kane coming at you from Kobe, Japan with another episode of the podcast, Marketers Who Can't Market. And who is this podcast for, you might ask, if this is your first time here, or maybe your second or your third. It's an intro, right? So we have to tell you what it's about. It's about marketing and trouble that you might have, and hopefully an effort that I make and other people make as we bring them on as guests to help you get out of the muck and onward towards doing more business and not being stuck with marketing. Because it's not easy, right? It is not easy. It's probably the most important thing that you do if you run a business. And if you're just doing marketing, you know how difficult it can be, right? Um, yeah, it's a challenge. Sales is kind of easy, comparatively speaking. You got to get if you're a salesperson, and I've been a salesperson, and I call myself probably more of a salesperson than I am a marketer. I like to refer to myself as a promotions person, promotions guy from my old days in radio. But in sales, like you kind of already have, if you're sitting down with somebody, you've already done the job of it kind of informing them as to what it is you do and how you can help them. They kind of get it, right? And if you work in a big company, your marketing team has enabled you to get in that chair to have a conversation with someone. If you're a small business, then you've done the effort already, right? The hard stuff is kind of over already. If you're having a meeting, it's like having a job interview. You're like 90% there. You're like all you got to do is screw it up, kind of, right? Uh, but along the way, there's a million and one things you can screw up with regard to marketing because most times you're operating in a complete vacuum, right? You have no idea what works, why it doesn't work until you get in front of somebody. And you can ask them, what is it? Why, how did you come to find me? How did you become interested in my product? Why did you decide to have a meeting with me? These are the things that they teach you when you're trying to like get customer, uh, not testimonies. When you're trying to like get inside the mind of the customer, as marketers will call this, in the mind of the customer, mind of your persona. I was reading this book last week. I'm always back and forth between a number of books, so sometimes I lose track of where I read something, right? But the tone is familiar, and so when I recycle back to this particular book, I've read three already different books in the past couple days. But when when I got back, I can't talk today. I have too much cheese on my brain. I think I had a lot of good cheese tonight. When I finally get back to the book, and I remember this, I'll feel this tone of the book, right? And they were talking about this business that was examining all sorts of proposals from salespeople, and they kept saying something like, "Oh, well, Angie wouldn't like that," or "Oh, yeah, and that wouldn't really kind of work with Angie." Yeah, could you see Angie doing that? Nah, not really. That's really not Angie's style. And this sales guy who's writing the book, I believe, um, or he's telling the story of a friend. He's like, "Who the fuck is Angie? And shouldn't I be talking with her instead of you two boneheads? Well, where's Angie?" And they, Angie is our persona, our customer persona, right? Our customer avatar. Sorry, even worse, customer avatar. Yeah, marketers can kind of screw things up by trying to be too cute in a way. It's just a person, right? How does our audience? What's wrong with saying audience? Why do we need to talk about people avatars now? Avatars didn't even exist until Gravatar, maybe, or was it the movie? I don't know. Who's your customer, right? And what is it that you're going to say to them to help get them in the door so that your sales guy could do an easier job of selling? And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Not about selling per se, but about laying little breadcrumbs out for people, which is basically what marketing does on, generally speaking, a larger scale, right? You get a team together, you figure out, like, how the hell can we get people to know about our product? How can we help our sales team out? Where can we spend money? Where can we save money? These are all big efforts that you put together when you're in a company. But when you're running your own show, it's even harder, right? I mean, what the heck? Budgets are shared budgets, really. If you're a solo entrepreneur and you're not yet incorporated, even if you're an S corp in the U.S., you're still kind of like channeling income in and out of your own pocketbook. So you don't have as many advantages. And so the things that you can do as a small business, or as a solo entrepreneur, or even as a big business, can be kind of cool when you scale down your approach a little bit. So I have this concept basically that I like to call small batch marketing. And small batch marketing is essentially when you utilize ideas that take a kind of a lot of effort, and focus them on a tight, small audience, and the result is equal to the amount of effort that you put into it, right? Or greater. So big effort up front, small audience, big result on the back end. And these sorts of things don't have to cost a lot of money, but they do take energy up front and they take creativity. So I'll give you 3 examples that might help you if you are open to considering this idea, right? So the first thing that you can do in this kind of small batch marketing idea is pay attention to your job postings, right? So job postings are one of the best ways to brand your business and to market to people before you really need them to walk in the door, right? So if you're a job searcher, if you're in college, let's say, for example, and you're looking for a job, or you're already employed but looking to move somewhere else, you're going to be looking for a job in the typical places, right? You're going to be hunting around on job boards, and maybe you'll be looking in trade magazines if you're smart. These sorts of things to get a vibe for what's happening at the companies in your city. So if you live in a big city like Chicago, where I lived, they have citywide business publications like Crain's, right? They exist in Cleveland, I think, in New York and other big cities. And the cities have business journals and newspapers. If you're a small business person, or if you're a hustler working at a small business, or any kind of business really, you should be looking into and reading these magazines. They're very expensive, so go to the library. They're always at the library, and read them there. You don't have to pay for them. When I was in college, I always used to go to the library and read Billboard, because I wanted to work in the music industry. Billboard was like $300 a year, I think, or something like that. I never paid for it. Variety, Hollywood Reporter. I used to read all those magazines to find out what was going on in the business and to look for who was moving in and out. So in Billboard, they used to have this thing called the Round Table, I think. Round something. It was basically this neat little section where they talked about people who were moving jobs. And so you get I was a nobody. I was a college kid, 19 years old, and I started to become familiar with people at record labels, with their names, because I could see where they were moving. And then at the time, they used to have this publication called the Yellow Pages of Rock, which was also really cool. And sometimes, so in college, they had older versions of it, so I was able to flip through there and get names and addresses of people, and that's how I found my first internship, actually, with Virgin Records. Is I had a whole database basically of people that I could reach out to for jobs, right? And that, my friends, is something I'm going to talk about later. This other way that I have my real expertise, in addition to writing, which is finding leads and reaching out to people and creating interest and a relationship with someone so that you can find clients or find a job or whatever it is. I have a whole thing that I've been doing for 20 plus years that works, and we'll talk about that at a later date. But anyway, job advertisements, right? When you need somebody, but other people are looking. That's the idea. Before you even know it, and before they maybe even need you, right? And so many times, how many times have you opened up a newspaper or Craigslist or ZipRecruiter, Monster, any of these millions of places, Indeed, where you can see job advertisements? How many times, if you've ever looked for a job, Have you seen a job advertisement that just sucks? That just is horrible. It has no personality whatsoever. It was crafted by some HR person with too much on their schedule and zero zero creativity. They're just pitiful, and it's a shame because those things can really help you get noticed in the market and really help you shine and really help you attract the right kinds of people. This is the biggest failure in marketing within as far as your own efforts go to bring in new people. Most job advertisements suck, and people can't find people, and they wonder why. I have this great job, and I put this job advertisement out there on Indeed, and I didn't talk anything about the money, and we didn't put our company name in there because we don't want people to crawl us or anything like that. That would be bad. We definitely don't want that to happen. Don't put anything in there that's creative and fun or funny. Just talk about basic shit, right? Yeah, we did all that. But nobody's answering the ad. I wonder why. This is like dating, folks. If you create a horrible job advertisement, nobody's going to want to come to work for you or work with you. It's exactly like dating. You have to be creative, and you have to show people why they would want to work for you. And you have to be open and transparent, for to use a very overused word these days, right? This bullshit about like not saying who you are is just dumb. Tell people who you are. Allow them to create a better email to you. Companies complain everybody's kind of generic in their outreach. Why are they generic? Because they can't find anything about you. They can't find anything out about you because you hide behind this wall of anonymity. So many companies do this. Don't do that. If you're a job seeker and you see that, there's another reason why you might be seeing that, which is that a lot of recruiters just basically scrape data or creatively kind of find out who's really looking for a job. So let's say IBM is hiring, right? A recruiter will find the job post where IBM says, come work at IBM, we're a great company. And then they'll repost the ad without mentioning IBM because they want to be able to get the lead, basically. They want you to bite on their ad for IBM, even though IBM probably has not hired them to promote that position. So when you call up and you send a resume out and they get in touch with you and they say, oh, you seem like a really good candidate. Yeah, we're doing this work for our client. They're probably lying to you. They don't have the client yet. They just want to be able to go to IBM later and say, hey, we found you this person. They're really great. Now pay us, and we'll tell you who it is. It's a game. But if you're not a recruiter, and that's not a game you're playing, but you're a company and you're not telling people who you are, don't do that anymore, right? Be creative. I'll give you an example because examples are good, right? So many years ago, when I was first starting my freelance communications company in Chicago, basically what I did was, so I'm a writer, right? And but I'm also a sales guy, and I'm not afraid to pick up the phone. And I got quite busy. This was before the world imploded in like 2008, 2009. Where it became very, very difficult to get any kind of marketing work after a while, especially once I moved out of Chicago in 2010. So things were going pretty well for me, and I decided I was running out of time to be able to do all of the writing that was coming in the door, and there was many things I found that I didn't really want to do anyway. So I started to collect, or put feelers out rather, to collect other senior writers that we could charge a decent amount of money for, who would come into a project, presumably, do a project well and quickly, and leave the client happy, and we would make good money as a company, and the writer also would make good money. So the way it worked is the writer told me, okay, this is what this project will probably cost me, and then I put margin on top of that. So the writer always got a good rate, and the client always got a good project, and I, for my legwork, did okay as well. But in order to do that, I had to put out an ad. So I took out an ad on Craigslist, which was free, I believe. And I had something like, this is going way back now, like I said, but I'm pretty sure I had something like 280 people responded to this ad. and from all over the place. So it was before Craig's like restricted your ability to kind of get people outside of your market. There's some weird thing right now, but anyway, back then something like 280 people I think responded, and they were all really good. There were a few handful of bullshit people who didn't read the job advertisement that I had created because I asked for very specific things. But by and large, everybody did what I wanted to, and it was tremendously successful. And it didn't cost me a dime, I don't think. And so this is what I did. So I said who I was and what I was trying to do. I was creating this model for freelance writers. And hey, if you're a good freelance writer and you're a senior writer, but you don't like picking up the phone, I probably can help you. And in order for me to figure out if you'd be a good fit, answer these questions. Don't send me a resume because I don't need a resume, right? Resumes are fairly worthless, at least for writing. Don't send me a resume, but send me one or two samples or links to samples and answer these questions. And they were, I can't remember all the questions, but what I do remember is one of the questions is me being funny, which is the last one. It said something like, hot dog or ketchup on your hot dog. Hot dog or ketchup? Mustard or ketchup on your hot dog? People love that question, right? Everybody, like everything else prior to that, that was the last question, I believe, was, fairly, people had good time with it because they liked the personality that came through the ad, but they had a lot of fun with the last question, right? Hot dog with mustard or ketchup, which do you prefer? And of course, I'm from the East Coast, right? So the idea of putting ketchup on a hot dog for anyone from New Jersey or New York is like cardinal sin, right? There's no way in hell you like people. Have you ever seen Seinfeld and the like soup Nazi kind of character? That's what happens. That's the kind of reaction you get if you say you want ketchup on a hot dog in pretty much every place that I've ever been to. They'll look at you really bad. Some people don't even have ketchup because they refuse to give you ketchup for your hot dog. In the Midwest, people eat ketchup on their hot dogs. It's so bizarre to me. But anyway, people love the question. And that's what you should do, right? So have fun with your ad. The last place that I worked at, Revenue Well in Chicago, they do this, and they get good results, right? They talk about the benefits that they have. They have a lot of personality in their ads. A lot of that comes from one of the founders, Alex Nasrin. He's a fun dude, and you can see that. And it's a great place to work because it's a great place to work. And you got to tell people why they want to work with you. So a little bit of marketing, or rather, this is a little bit about marketing, this job description thing. But a little bit of energy, more energy maybe than you want to put into an ad, for a focused audience, big result, right? The other component of this, though, that's crucial, and I had a personal experience with this today, which was just wonderful, is you have to respond back to people, right? Especially if you're putting your name on the ad. And this could be one reason why a lot of companies don't want to do this. Because they don't have the ability to follow up. But many companies, when I was applying to jobs in the shitstorm that was the economy collapsing in 2009, 10, 11, when I was having to apply for jobs again, working at Amazon and working on a UPS truck for $8.50 an hour as a 47-year-old in the wintertime, that was fun. My driver was cool, though. But having to apply for jobs, there's lots of companies that were big companies that never responded at all. They put their name on there. They didn't give you any sort of feedback at all. And what do you think happens, right? What do you think happens when you are dealing, especially in an economy like that, where you've got tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, I don't know, out of work, having a hard time finding work, and not feeling good about that, and applying for jobs, and they just go into a fucking black hole. You take and a lot of companies are like, hey, send us a please attach a cover letter and resume, and send us samples and do this and that and do this and fucking bend over. And yeah, we don't even send you a receipt of your submission, let alone say thanks but no thanks. Because I don't know, because lawyers say, oh, don't respond back because it sets you up for some sort of, liability or whatever. Stop listening to your lawyers, or find a better way to push back, so that you can respond to people with humanity, right? It's really bullshit that you can't respond. There's a better way, there's a better answer, and make sure your lawyers find the answer. Not responding is not a good deal. So today, for example, I had a scene maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. I signed up about 2 or 3. Excuse me. I signed up a few months ago for information about this product called Deadline Funnel. You might have heard of it before. It's basically a countdown timer that you can put on your website. There are several. This is one of the more well-known ones. And I just signed up for information about the product. I don't even use it. And a couple weeks ago, I got an email said, hey, this is Jack at Deadline Funnel, and we're hiring for somebody to do video production, create videos for us. And I didn't open it. I said that was the headline of the email that I received, and I didn't even open it. I thought, well, I'm not a video production guy. I can't do that. But I think I must have been going through my inbox to clean it out. And I ended up opening it, and it turned out to be that they were looking for somebody to do explainer videos, which I've done before, right? So I know the tools, and I know how to kind of put together an explainer video. It's no problem. I've done it before, training as well as pitch kinds of stuff. So I thought, oh, what the hell? I'll throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. I live in Japan, so this kind of geo arbitrage of money works well for me, and it could be fun. It's a neat product. So it took a little while to send samples. I had to find them because I'm not normally applying for this kind of job, but I have samples and links that I sent to them. And then you have to do the typical stuff. They had a Google form. You have to tell them like why you're great and all that. Why you want to work for them. Actually, they didn't have why you want to work for them, which is kind of a stupid question. I'm glad I didn't see that. Why do people? This is one thing that's funny actually. Why would you like to work for us? I don't know, because I need a job. Most people will find themselves to be a good fit just about anywhere if they find that the qualifications are there. Unless you're selling yourself, which companies are not in general, selling yourself exceedingly well on the website, nobody has a fucking idea why they really want to work for you. So don't ask that question unless you're really kind of over the top good in your presentation. But these guys did not ask that, and they had a few questions. I filled it out, I sent it away, and blah, blah, blah. I didn't think about it for a week or so. And then I got an email back a couple days ago, maybe a week, from Jack, who I think is the founder. I don't know if it really came from Jack, but it was addressed as if it were coming from him. And he said, hey, thanks for filling out the job application. Doc, I think my name was at the top. And we're reviewing things now, and we appreciate it, and we'll get back to you. Well, that's quite a surprise. Like I said, I had kind of forgotten about it. Neat. And I even told my wife, I was like, oh, this is kind of neat. That doesn't normally happen. And then today, I got another email from Jack that said, hey, thanks. Oh, before I say that, so I was so surprised that I got an email saying, we're looking over your submission, that I responded back to it. And I said, like, kudos to you for responding back. That normally doesn't happen anymore. So if nothing else comes from this, I think I said, I'm just happy to have heard from you, which is totally how I felt. And then today I got another email. Said, sorry, appreciate the effort, but we ended up hiring someone else or going with somebody else on this. And hopefully you understand, because it's a certain kind of feel that we were going for. Totally makes sense, right? It's basically an acting job. And they have a certain kind of voice in line and a certain presentation, and I wasn't it. Totally cool. But fucking really cool that they responded back to me and let me know. So if you think about this with your marketing hat on, and anybody ever mentions deadline funnel to me, especially in the in a conversation about maybe working for them or buying the product, do you think I'm going to say cool things about them? Do you think I'm going to say, hey, let me tell you this story? Because that doesn't ever happen, right? In other words, this is what I'm saying to the other person. Let me tell this story about I applied for a job and they got back to me, and then I sent them and then they sent me another message back, and well, that must be a really cool company, right? Because who does that anymore? Nobody, right? And that person listening is going to be like, yeah, I can tell you the last time anybody ever replied to me after having submitted a job application. That place must be cool. I'm going to go buy their product, or I'm going to apply to work there myself and see how it works, right? Huge, huge, huge marketing opportunity in job advertisements. Don't mess it up. You will find great employees if you create great ads. Okay, that's number one. Number two, small batch marketing. You probably know about this, but if you don't, it's worth knowing about. So, PR, right? Public relations is important and very hard to get. It definitely requires a lot of effort if you're going to create interest in the press, local or national. You have to be creative, right? So these are the steps, right? Effort, creativity, and you win. PR is difficult, but it works. These days, there is a tool that's been around since probably 2008 or so. When I was on Twitter, and boom, this guy's name just escaped me. Peter Shankman. So Peter Shankman created this email service, which was ugly and simple and beautiful at the same time, called Help a Reporter Out, right? Peter Shankman put this thing together and started promoting it on Twitter, and we saw it as early Twitter adopters, and we were like, wow, this is cool. And the idea is with Haro, people call it Haro, basically. I can't even pronounce it the way it's pronounced in English anymore, because in Japan that would be like Haro. Haro. Funny. I don't know how to pronounce it in English. Haro, Help a Reporter Out. It's a free email list that you sign up for if you are a source. So if you work at a company or you run a company and you want press exposure, you sign up to be on this email list, and every day, twice a day, I think, they will send you a list of requests from journalists, and sometimes web host owners or book authors like myself. I've used it to find sources for my books. You'll get this list, and it'll say, hey, I'm so-and-so from the New York Times, and I'm looking to interview someone about, I don't know, a small batch marketing. I'm looking to interview somebody about HR practices or someone about cannabis or whatever. There's so many requests in these. They range from like maybe 10 to 20. I've seen in greater numbers sometimes. 20 requests a day for sources, right? And what you have to do is, if you're a source, you respond back to this request. They're anonymous email addresses. And sometimes the posts are anonymous too, but most times the journalist will include their name and their outlet. So Sally from the New York Times, whatever. So if you're a source, you respond back and you say, oh, I think I can help you, and this is why, and da-da-da-da. You answer their query, basically, or query. And if you fit, they will get back to you. I have yet to have anybody get back to me, but it happens for a lot of people. So it's a really cool thing that you should take a look at and get on the list. And it comes out, like I said, twice a day, and it can be a little taxing to kind of skim through it all the time. So be aware that if you do decide to sign up for this, you're going to be probably blowing about 15, if you're just skimming it, probably 15 minutes a day. If you're, or maybe a little bit more, and if you're responding to it, you're going to probably end up spending about 40 minutes to an hour sometimes if you end up responding to one or two of the requests. So keep that in mind. But it's effort up front, right? So worth considering. And here's a second idea that I have had, but I haven't employed as of yet, is you get these lists, you get these emails rather, and they have requests for sources. And maybe you look at it and you see nothing really there that works for me now. But there's nothing to prevent you from creating like a little list of people who are looking for sources in areas that you are qualified to respond to, right? So let's say someone puts out a request for, I don't know, something like successful HR practices you implemented at your small company, right? And maybe you don't have the time to respond to that particular query, but you are doing interesting things at your workplace now that maybe you'll have answers for in 6 months or a year, right? If I were you, I would write down that person's name and outlet, because again, the email address is not there. But these days, it's so easy to find people, right? On LinkedIn, Twitter, there's a million ways. Create your own little press list, right? And you can use websites like Muckrack for this too. MUC, I'll put it in the thingy. Muckrack to find journalists. But the beauty of this list is you have active people, right? Active people looking for sources, as opposed to you having to go out and find people in lists of specialties. This is more of it's a better list. So I would do that. Create a list, and then when you're ready to reach out to an employee, to a journalist, which is what you do when you're trying to get PR. It's an okay thing to do. Then you got a list, right? So it's cool. And if you don't have time for this, have interns do it, right? Listen to my podcast about interns. I'll link to that also below, and put them on the task, and you'll have a good time with this. So many opportunities there. Again, small marketing, big win, right? Last one. This one is really all about creativity, and it's about doing things that no one else is really thinking about, and things that really you and your team will come up with that you'll be surprised about. And what I'm thinking about here is kind of stuff we used to do in the music business, right, and in radio. And these things are basically what we used to call promotions. So we're doing a promotion at XYZ, we're doing this at this place, or we're doing this kind of promotion. When I worked in radio, we had a lot of liberty to do really cool things, because we at radio stations they sell this thing called a remote broadcast. So if you've ever listened to the radio and you hear like, "Hey, today we're out at Joe Blow's car dealership. Come down and say hello. We got free CDs to give away, and we got soda, and we got hot dogs grilling out on the grill. Come out, see, take a look at some of the cars. Blah blah blah." Blah. That's a sales package, right? So the auto dealership has paid the radio station for basically a block of advertising, because the radio station is putting their butts in the car lot for 2 to 4 hours, let's say. And the car dealership is paying a huge chunk of money for that broadcast to happen. So in radio, we can do so many cool things, right? And what we would often do is, as little like spiffs, we call them, or like favors to big advertisers. And sometimes these things were wrapped into package plans that advertisers would pay for the year or whatever. But they're kind of like favors. So because we want, as a radio station, we want exposure, and we want to do cool things for our listeners as well, right? So one thing we used to do is this, when I worked at WZZO in Allentown, my boss is a guy named Fred Shade, who went out to do record promotion many years after that, or several years after that. He was a cool dude. So here's a little quick side note about Fred Shade. Fred Shade was so fixated on getting a job in the music business and not staying in radio, like I was several years after that, that when he moved to Allentown, Pennsylvania from, I think he's from Erie, Pennsylvania. He moved to Allentown from Erie. He didn't even set up a checking account at a bank in Allentown. And he told me the reason for this is because he didn't want to make himself feel committed to Allentown. He didn't want to get stuck in Allentown. It was really smart, and I'll never forget that. It was kind of cool little idea. Like, he did not want to plant roots in Allentown because if he knew that if he did, he would stay there. I think it was quite brilliant. He was a young guy. I was a teenager, and he was probably 23 or 4. Maybe he was 25. Very, very smart deal, right? But anyway, he came up with this idea. I think it was his idea to do this thing called a pop drop. Now, I'm pretty sure it was his idea because in New Jersey and Allentown, we don't call soda pop, right? We call it soda. But he must have called it pop because he's from like far away Pennsylvania, Erie, Pennsylvania. So a pop drop was where we would take the van, and so the radio station van, and the first thing we would do is we would drive to a soda distributor that was nearby, who was an advertising client of ours. We would go to the soda distributor, and we would pick up a couple cases, I don't know, 10, 12, 20 cases of soda. And in the van, we had these gigantic blue, like, bins, like gallon, I don't know, 100-gallon drums or whatever, these giant drums. And so we would go to the soda place, and then we would go to another place, which was an ice place, and buy ice, I think. We'd fill up these drums with ice and water. This is what I was doing as an intern. And then we would throw soda in them. But before we did that, we would drive. So, soda distributor, ice place, and then we would go to some other place that was an advertiser, and it could have been anybody. Maybe it's a furniture store, maybe it's a I don't know, an accountant. It could have been anybody who was an advertiser. It was always different, and we would drive to the place with the van, and we would park the van in front of this main highway. It was usually along this big stretch of highway that was highly trafficked in Allentown. And we'd park the van there so people could see it. And then we would do breaks from this particular place. Let's say it's a furniture place. And we would have, by this time, set up these drums with the ice and the water and the soda in there. And we would say, hey, come... during breaks, it would be 3 breaks an hour probably. Hey, come down to so-and-so furniture place. We're out there. We got a pop drop, and we're giving away free soda. So if you're driving by, stop in. We'll give you some Coke, and we'll slap a ZZO sticker on your bumper, and you'll have a great day. Just come on in, say hello, and there you go. Right? This thing worked like mad. It was crazy. So you don't believe how many people would come in and say they're just like dying for a free soda. It was like so ridiculous. But the trick was they only got the free soda if I, the intern, was allowed to put a WZZO sticker on their bumper. And when you grew up in that tri-state area, if you grew up in I'm from Phillipsburg, New Jersey. Phillipsburg, Easton, Allentown. There are ZZO stickers everywhere. At least then, in the 90s. WZZO bumper stickers were even on cars of people who didn't listen to WZZO that much. Because pop drops and things of that nature, right? That was the deal. That was the bargain. You want a soda? Cool. I got to put this thing on your bumper. I remember one guy was like, I really particular about his bumper, but he wanted the soda so bad. So I had to do this kind of faux pasting of the sticker on his bumper. I think what we did was you know how bumper stickers have a paper backing, right? So I think we cut away some of the paper. So when I placed it on, but not all of it. So when I placed it on his bumper, it would stick, but he could take it off then later when he got home because he didn't want this WZZO sticker on his beautiful car. But people will do fucking anything for soda, man. So what will they do for you? What kind of neat things could you come up with to promote your business, to market it? Get a little team together, get your creative nut jobs together, or if you're a solo person, your friends who have cool ideas, and think of things, right? It can be anything as long as it's legal and fun, right? And if you implement PR, then you can really get some bang for your buck out of it. So here are a few ideas of things that you might be able to do. It's difficult for me to brainstorm these because I don't know your particular business, obviously. But if I sat in a room with you, we probably could come up with a lot of things. We used to have a promotions meeting, I think, every week at the radio station, and just talk about what kind of crazy things could we do this week. What kind of crazy thing? One thing we did, we had a Kiss concert coming to town one time, and we came up with this idea to give away tickets and probably backstage passes or something like that to to a couple that would sit on the lawn of the radio station and kiss for the longest time without taking their lips away from one another. It was the dumbest thing. I thought nobody's gonna do this. This is stupid. You mean people are gonna lay on the grass and kiss for hours? It was unbelievable. People went on and on and on and on, and then finally at the end there were two couples left, and one couple finally was like, "Fuck it, I can't do it anymore. I love you, baby, but I can't kiss you anymore." And they stopped, and like half a second later, the other team stopped, and they won. They won the tickets. This radio station also had this big contest that was famous in the 80s, I think, where they had people like sleeping on a billboard in the wintertime all for like almost a year or some crazy amount. I have to look into it now. I'm interested again. To win something, a house, to win a house. That's promotions, right? Cool. Come up with a cool idea. So what can you do? Here's something I thought of in Japan. So I teach English here in Japan. So I thought, and it's hot here, right? So in the summertime, people walk around with parasols all the time to keep themselves from getting sunburned, right? Or too much sun exposure. So they walk around with parasols. And I thought, maybe what I could do is I could, myself at first, but maybe I could hire people to do this. I could create a custom parasol that said something like, some sort of cool thing about me teaching business clients English in a red parasol that somebody could walk around certain buildings where people are the kind of client that I might want to get, like a trading company client, export company, these sorts of people, pay somebody to walk around these buildings with a red parasol all day long, a pretty girl or a handsome guy, and see what happens, right? People might, and if you have a talker, which is rare in Japan, you might do even better. That's a crazy idea, right? It might work. It doesn't cost anything but what a parasol costs to create, and somebody's time, an intern. You could create a lemonade stand, right? When's the last time you saw a lemonade stand that wasn't run by kids? Like, when's the last time you saw a lemonade stand that was run by kids? This is a long time ago, probably. But that sounds ridiculous, right? The more ridiculous, the better, probably. And this is what I would do with this particular idea. So when I worked at Revenue Well, we worked in this big building that was renovated largely for us at one point in time because we were the biggest client in the building. There were many empty units in there, but there were also other companies in there, and I had no idea who they were. There's a little signboard, and there's like, XYZ company. Well, like, what do they do? I have no idea. And as the building started to fill in, there were even more people there. And I literally had zero idea what any of these companies did. Zero. One guy was a lawyer, and you could see that because it said like Esquire on his door or whatever. But I don't know. So why not make yourself known? Especially if some of those people could be clients of yours or know people who could be clients. We don't know how many people know other people, right? So why not set up a lemonade stand in front of the building where 500 people work and give away lemonade or charge 5 cents for it and have maybe, they have this like bring your daughter to work day, bring your son to work day, have the kids do it. I don't know, get the permit that you need in America because it's so nutty anymore with this sort of thing. But do something like that. And then people will ask you, who are you? What do you do? Oh, you're that company in the back corner with the neat lights and the pool table. And what do you do? Wow, you create software for dentists. This is what Revenue Well did. Wow, that's really cool. My uncle is a dentist. Tell me about this. This is cool, right? This is, again, big effort, small audience, big result. And it can be a really big result if you get the local press involved, right? The smaller the town, the easier it is to get press. If you're doing this in downtown Chicago, you might get exposure because you're blocking streets in a way. But if you do this in Bannockburn, Illinois, which is where my company was, and you let the local people in the press know about it, you could get some press, right? And then before you're one of Crane's best places to work, which is what we eventually became after I pushed and pushed and pushed, and we became a great place. We were always a great place, but I pushed to get the attention, and they're like unstoppable now. And people, and I don't want to. I should back up. I don't want to take any credit for Revenue Well because those guys are amazing. But there was a pain in the ass effort for probably 2 years, I think, to get our name out there with regard to Cranes, and we didn't have the I think employee count, and our revenues weren't quite where they needed to be for a certain 3 years period or some jazz like that. I don't remember. But what happens is when you apply for those sorts of things, you show up on the desk of the people who are looking out for big companies, right? And so you're on that desk every year, and you have a name, and you can follow up with them about other things, right? It's all about contacts. It's all about small wins. It's all about small batch marketing, right? So there you go. Hopefully this has helped give you some ideas, right? If you sat down with a group of people, I guarantee you come up with lots and lots of ideas here. Sit down with your creative people and come up with a good job ad. Don't just give it to HR. And if HR doesn't create things that are creative, take it away from HR. Give it to somebody who can help make a difference. With the PR stuff and help a reporter out and things like that, which are kind of rote projects, uh, get interns. Put those people to work and teach them something cool about public relations. PR students would die for the opportunity to help out with this sort of thing. It's so much good practice for them. And it requires consistent and persistent effort. So you really need somebody on it all the time. And that's it. The last thing, promotions are easy to pull off if you, again, get your heads together and come up with cool ideas. So there you have it. Hopefully that helps. May 25th, 2021. I'm done for the day, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please reach out to me if you would like to be featured on the podcast in a little interview of sorts. My email is doc@roscommon.com. Oh, actually, that is my email address, but we're talking about Nihon Hustle, right? So doc@nihonhustle.com. Roscommon is my parent company. Send me an email, like, subscribe, ring the notification bell if you want to be kind of in the loop on these when they drop. And have a beautiful day, night, wherever you are. Say hi to your loved ones. Make sure you pay attention to your pets. And we'll catch up with you tomorrow. All right, peace out from Kobe, Japan. See you tomorrow.